Wild for the Weekend is sponsored by the following supporters.
Hopcop Premium Meats are third-generation BC farmers, roaming pasture-fed, non-GMO, grain-finished cattle with no added hormones and steroids. We source local produce and specialty grocery selections located on Old Dewdney Trunk Road in Pitt Meadows. hopcopmeats.ca.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Wild for the Weekend. We are going to work today with sturgeon, beautiful white Fraser River sturgeon, a local fish, beautiful nutrients, very, very exciting flavors we've got for you today. We're going to do some ceviche, we're going to do a beautiful lemon sturgeon with morel mushrooms. So come back in just a few minutes on Wild for the Weekend. Welcome back everyone to Wild for the Weekend, and we're going to start off cooking a beautiful lemon smoked morel sturgeon dish. A really, really simple dish. So we'll get right into it because there are a couple of things we have to do. First thing we're going to do is take our lemons and just cut them in half. I want to get a lot of juice out of these lemons, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and tilt that so you can see it. Oh, it's not working totally. There we go. Just put your fork into your lemon. If you don't have a lemon squeezer or anything, put your fork into your lemon and just move it around as you squeeze the lemon together, and that will release a great deal of juice. Fork in and just squeeze around. Don't worry about the pits and everything going in there because we're actually going to use this without the pits, so we're not too worried about them going in. We don't have to save them or anything. Okay, so we've got lovely lemon juice in there. And we are going to just move these two lemons over. And then we're going to get hold of our beautiful sturgeon. And this sturgeon, I just skinned it so that we're left with just the meat. And I'm going to just cut this down into about 1-inch square cubes, or you can use these slices, whichever you prefer. What we want to do is just make them of a certain size. So let's actually leave them this size and see what's going on. And then we're going to put them into the lemon juice. This will actually cook them ever so slightly, just delicately on the very outside. We're actually going to get more into that in the recipe in the end of the show today, where we're actually going to make it a ceviche. But this one we just cook in the marinade in the lemon juice. What I would do is I'd marinate that in the lemon juice for about an hour or overnight in the refrigerator, whichever works best for you. But to make it work, what we're going to do is just take our bamboo steamer, which is over boiling water, and put on top of that some wax paper, just parchment wax paper. And then before it curls, you see it curling from the heat, before it curls, it's like it's talking to me here. There we go. Before it curls, just lay the sturgeon onto the paper. That lovely lemon juice will be infusing into that. Put the lid on and we're just going to steam it. Now, we're going to move on to our morels. I'm just going to take this board away and get myself a new board and just take the morels. The morels have been soaking in just water for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, just to plump up and become lovely and soft. And on our element here, I have a, let's move that up, I have a skillet, and I'm just going to add some butter to that skillet. No oil, just some butter. We want this beautiful, creamy, rich flavor in there. Take our morel mushrooms that we've drained off, and I've kept the liquor to the side. And we're just going to rough chop these. Not, actually, I'm going to change the knife. Rough chop these. Don't have them too finely chopped. We want to see some of that shape and the beautiful coning that is in the morels. And then we're going to put them into our skillet and saute them gently. Now, but I want to pull out of the oven a squash that we have roasted. And I love to cook squash in this way. It's got such an interesting kind of feel to it. One of the things this is a spaghetti squash, and I deliberately did a spaghetti squash because I want the spaghetti. So all I did was I stabbed the spaghetti 10 times, popped it in the 375, 350 oven for an hour, and that was it done. And then what I'm going to do is I just want to open it but I don't want to open it fully. I want to just take a wedge out of it. And then what I'm going to do is scoop out the seeds from the inside. I just want to take them out and get them to the back. And then what you're going to do is just take all these seeds out. You want all of them out of the inside of the squash. Gosh, it smells beautiful. Then you're going to take a fork and go into the inside of the squash. I want me to open this up just a little bit more so you can see it. There you go. So take a fork, and all we're going to do is rub the fork along the back of the squash, and that creates the spaghetti that we're looking for. That's how we get that beautiful spaghetti kind of sinew going on, the strings of the different spaghetti. So this is the base of our dish. And we are going to have that sit on our plate. Just take some of this gorgeous spaghetti squash into the middle of our plate here. I love the strands, and I love how this works. The problem is if you cut this in half, the strands get very, very wet. Let me just take that out. The strands get very, very wet, and they stick together. So if you do it this way, they're loose and they're fluffy and they separate up. Okay, so we have our beautiful spaghetti squash on our plate. We're going to move this tray just to the back here and focus back on our morels. These morels, just saute gently. We don't want them, and they're just in that butter. We don't want them overcooked at all. We're just really warming them through and giving them a lovely, delicate flavor with that butter. Some black pepper, and then I'm going to put a tiny little bit of the liquor from the mushrooms in there, just a tiny bit, like a tablespoon or two, nothing too much. And I also want just a tiny little bit of the lemon juice. And because we're heating the lemon juice up, it will kill, if there was any bacteria in there, because we used it for marinade, it'll kill all of that, so you don't have to worry. Okay, so we're going to use some of this smoked fleur de sel and just break that over the plate. And the reason that I want to use the smoked is because the mushrooms are smoked, so we're marrying the two flavors together. It'll give it just a little bit of color, but it'll give it a lovely flavor, a really gorgeous flavor. So we're going to take our spaghetti squash and just tampen it down a little bit. I'm going to grab a spoon, and we're going to take our mushrooms off of the top and just place them on top of this gorgeous spaghetti squash. And all of that beautiful liquor that's in that skillet, we want to keep that and not let that go anywhere. And we're going to take turn this off. I'm going to take our beautiful sturgeon. And you notice how lovely and pearl-like it got now. The sturgeon itself will actually cook 3 minutes, about 3 minutes an inch. And once it's finished cooking, it will have that pearl-like texture. You don't want to overcook sturgeon. You overcook sturgeon, it gets like rubber. It's going to be all toothy and rubbery. So steaming is a really beautiful way of doing it because it really doesn't, it enjoys it, it doesn't affect it too much. So take the gorgeous sturgeon, put that on top of our lovely mushrooms, and just take the butter that we have left from our mushrooms and take a little bit of that on top. Beautiful. Such a lovely little dish. I wish you could be here and smell this. It's just gorgeous. People will think they're getting spaghetti, but they're really getting a vegetable, so you're kidding them along the way. When we come back, we are going to work more with sturgeon, so we'll see you in a few minutes on Wild for the Weekend.
Wild for the Weekend is sponsored by the following supporters.
Hopcop Premium Meats are third-generation BC farmers, roaming pasture-fed, non-GMO, grain-finished cattle with no added hormones and steroids. We source local produce and specialty grocery selections located on Old Dewdney Trunk Road in Pitt Meadows. hopcopmeats.ca. West Coast Wild Foods, foraged wild mushrooms and truffles harvested from the Northwest Territories to southern BC. westcoastwildfoods.com, a wild foods company. Mobile Bandit is an app that helps you find local deals on your smartphone.
Downloadable on all devices and no membership is required. Visit mobilebandit.com for more info. Golden Ears Cheeseworks, artisan cheese made in the Fraser Valley. Golden Ears Cheeseworks, cheese made with the family farm milk. 3-year cheddar, Yorkshire Blue, and Brie. Hagen's Board Chocolates is a boutique Vancouver-based chocolate company that has been producing European chocolate since 2006. Pure Verona chocolate. Third generation family farm in the Fraser Valley. Fraser Valley Specialty Poultry has free-range duck and goose, duck sausage and smoked duck breast, organic chicken and ground duck patties. Fraser Valley Specialty Poultry in Chilliwack, BC. fvdg.com.
Anita's Organic Flour and Mixes has over 20 years providing whole grain products from Canadian farmers. Anita's is certified organic grains, flour, cereals, mixes, and sprouted products. Their granite stone mills and low temperature milling preserve the nutrition for whole grain food. AnitasOrganic.com.
Welcome back to Wild for the Weekend. We are continuing on with our sturgeon recipes today, and now we're going to make a really beautiful sturgeon, an Asian-inspired sturgeon, a ponzu sturgeon. And the ponzu is just the sauce, and it's actually not, the sauce is not developed for a sturgeon, but I decided to marry it to the sturgeon because it has such a soft, delicate flavor, and the sturgeon will absorb it just beautifully. So, very first thing that we're going to do, we have our 2 fillets of sturgeon here. We're just going to give them a little bit of seasoning, a little cracked black pepper. I have a skillet on the stove that's warming in really high heat because I want to sear these fish. I want to treat them like I would a steak. So this will be very, very hot. Put it in, and we'll get a nice sear going on. Excellent. And then we'll start making our ponzu sauce. And the sauce is really simple. I'm going to put a tiny little bit of olive oil in there. And I'm going to puree down the garlic. Got a little bit of salt in our garlic, in our pestle and mortar here. And so I'm just going to puree that down. Got that olive oil in there. To that, I'm going to add some soy sauce. Oh, lovely, smoky, smoky, lovely. That's a hot. I'm going to add some oyster sauce to that. Lovely. Oh, the smells are amazing. A little bit of sesame oil. Just mix that around. And a little bit of sriracha sauce. Lovely. And all of the heat in that. Now is when we go and add our garlic into this sauce because we didn't want to add it before it would have charred in the oil. So add a little bit of garlic in there. Give that a mix around. I'm going to turn over our sturgeon in just a moment or two. You want to cook that so that it becomes opaque about 1/3 of the way up. As soon as it becomes opaque, then we can flip it over. So, move these. I'm going to add a little bit of ginger to our ponzu. Now, don't peel my ginger, and when I buy my ginger, I freeze it. And I freeze it because I love the way it crumbles when it comes out of the freezer. But if you haven't frozen it, just slice it very, very thinly, about, say, 3 pieces of ginger that are about 1.5 inches, 2 inches long. We're going to just thinly shred them down and then chop them finely. And this is going to be the final essence that's going to come out through that beautiful ponzu sauce. So here we go. Take this. Now the sturgeon that we're working with is, as I mentioned earlier, a white Fraser River sturgeon. I think we should open the door in our kitchen because it's getting a little smoky in here, isn't it? We're going to turn this over. Have that beautiful caramel coating on top of that fish. And you see how it's about 1/3 of the way through when I turned it, so it's got nice and opaque. To our sauce, I'm just going to add a tiny little bit of liquor from the mushrooms just to get that sauce a really beautiful, rich, gorgeous flavor. And then we're going to take our garlic and pop that in there. Now, leave that, and that's our sauce. It's just going to simmer gently for a minute or two. We don't really want it to overcook too much. I really just like to serve it with some vegetables or with a little bit of fruit or something. So today it's really simple, just some beautiful orange pepper and tomatoes onto our plate, just to the side. I love that color. It's got such a beautiful color. Our sturgeon, you want to cook it to a medium to medium rare. You don't want to overcook it because it will become very, very tough. So steaming again like we did earlier, or this cooking method where it's at 3 minutes per inch is a really perfect way. So we take one of our sturgeon fillets just off, turn that plate around, and we're going to just pour this really beautiful ponzu sauce over the top of it. Take a little tiny bit of salt, and I like to just do a little garnish with something that we've got in the recipe. So just a couple of strands of ginger, just to let them know that there is ginger in that dish and that's the flavor. So this is our beautiful ponzu sturgeon with our little tomato and orange pepper salad. And we will be back in a few minutes where we're going to make a ceviche with the sturgeon. So join us again in a few minutes on Wild for the Weekend. Now we're going to do a ceviche. I just love ceviche. I like it in the spring, I like it in the summer, I'll eat it in the fall. It's just something that I really like. And I make ceviche with almost everything that in a seafood in our kitchen. So I have done it with everything. So I thought, let's do a little ceviche with the sturgeon. Very first thing that we have to do is just take one of our beautiful sturgeon fillets that we skinned. I'm just going to, I noticed that I have a little bone in there. I want to take that out because we don't want anything, any bones or anything like that in this. So take our sturgeon and we're going to slice them about 1/4 of an inch thick. You don't want them to be thick at all. We want the lemon juice to go into the ceviche and cook it, so we have to cut it very thin. So we've got these lovely slices. Once we've got the slices down, we're just going to chop them up into little pieces. Again, more surface area, the quicker and easier it is to cook with citrus. And citrus, you can't really do this with an orange juice. You want to do this with a lime or a lemon juice. It just works better. The acidity contents are higher. The fish accepts it much better as well. And if you make the recipe with the lemon sturgeon and the smoked morels, you'll get that beautiful lemon smoky flavor coming through. Whereas in this one, we're actually going to balance out that lemon flavor with lime and a few other ingredients just to make the ceviche a little rounded, get that umami flavor going on in there. So, chopping up our beautiful sturgeon. Sturgeon is a very interesting fish. It has to, once it's culled, it actually has to mature for up to 7 days and then is usable for up to 10 to 12 days after that. So it's like wild game in a way that we use. So our sturgeon is over there. We've just cut it up. I'm going to put into our ceviche bowl some shallots, beautiful, just finely diced shallots. I'm going to put in a little bit of soy sauce, some wasabi, just to give it a little bit of a kick, a little zhuzh underneath. Some salt, teaspoon or so of salt, not too much. I'm going to put in a little red pepper, a little cayenne. If you have a smoked pepper, put the smoked pepper in as well. That's really beautiful. A little bit of olive oil, but not too much. And a little bit, about a teaspoon or so of maple syrup. And just blend those together. And then to this is where we're going to add the citrus. So this is all flavor. What this does is this creates the flavor that we're going to impart into the fish. We're going to take our lemons. We're going to use lemons and limes. And use the same method as we used earlier. We're just basically, we're not going to worry about the seeds or anything. We're just going to put the fork in and squeeze out that lovely juice. Don't worry about the seeds, because in a ceviche, we're really lifting out the fish more than we are serving the flavorings. All of the things that we've put in here are really just flavorings. So lemon juice goes in, and then we're going to put in our lime juice. I really love this. The smells when you work with the citrus fruits are just beautiful. I love the oils coming out of them. So lime juice in here. You'll notice you'll get much less lime juice out of a lime than you will a lemon. The tendons in the limes are much tighter and hold a lot less fluid than the lemons in, but the intensity of their flavor is higher, so that's another thing that you don't have to put as much in. But the balance of lemon and lime is just beautiful. It really works really well. So there is our base, and we are going to put to that some green onions, just some little chives, a little bit of chive in there. Again, just to get that little oniony flavor, but we don't want the onion to be too predominant. So that's why we use shallots, because the shallots have a softer, sweeter flavor than the regular white onions. So a little bit of chive in there, mix that around, and then we go and get our beautiful sturgeon fish and put it into the lemon juice, lime juice mixture. You want to let this cook in the juice for a minimum of an hour. Don't do less than that, and don't do more than 12 hours. So eat it within 12 hours of it being consumed. What I actually do with mine is I put it into this dish and I let it marinate. Make sure that it's all submerged. All of the fish is submerged underneath there and soaking up all of that beautiful juice. Put it into, if you're going to serve it within 2 hours, leave it at room temperature. If you're going to make this in the morning, what I would do is I'd make this about 10 a.m. and then I would have it, say, 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So I would wrap that and put that into the fridge. I like to keep it a little cooler. And we want to kill any bacteria that might possibly be around. Now, sturgeon, predominantly historically, was known to have kind of a black spot on it, and it could have some bacteria, but sturgeon that we use is raised and it doesn't have any bacteria that we are frightened of in that environment. It's a very safe, clean environment. So our fish is not going to have that bacteria, and that's why I feel confident about making a ceviche. But if you're not confident with your seafood, don't make ceviche, because you want to be. It is almost like, it is sushimi in a way. It's only been cooked with the citrus, and so it has a very soft, very, very delicate texture because of the citrus cooking it, but it must be cooked through because that citrus needs to kill anything that goes on. Ceviches were really made in hot climates when they didn't have the ability to cook as well as they do now. And so these beautiful dishes came with these hot climates and them and allowed them to eat really gently. So our ceviche, our sturgeon ceviche, and it's been a real joy cooking sturgeon for you today. We're going to be back in a few minutes. I'm going to tell you a little bit of history and a little bit of a story about the sturgeon that we get and where it comes from. So join me in a few minutes again on Wild for the Weekend.
Wild for the Weekend is sponsored by the following supporters. Hopcop Premium Meats are third-generation BC farmers, roaming pasture-fed, non-GMO, grain-finished cattle with no added hormones and steroids. We source local produce and specialty grocery selections located on Old Dewdney Trunk Road in Pitt Meadows. hopcopmeats.ca. West Coast Wild Foods, foraged wild mushrooms and truffles harvested from the Northwest Territories to southern BC. westcoastwildfoods.com, a wild foods company. Mobile Bandit is an app that helps you find local deals on your smartphone. Downloadable on all devices and no membership is required. Visit mobilebandit.com for more info. Golden Ears Cheeseworks, artisan cheese made in the Fraser Valley. Golden Ears Cheeseworks, cheese made with the family farm milk. 3-year cheddar, Yorkshire Blue, and Brie. Hagensport Chocolates is a boutique Vancouver-based chocolate company that has been producing European chocolate since 2006. Pure Verona chocolate.
Third generation family farm in the Fraser Valley. Fraser Valley Specialty Poultry has free-range duck and goose, duck sausage and smoked duck breast, organic chicken and ground duck patties. Fraser Valley Specialty Poultry in Chilliwack, BC. fvdg.com.
Anita's organic flour and mixes has over 20 years providing whole grain products from Canadian farmers. Anita's has certified organic grains, flour, cereals, mixes and sprouted products. Their granite stone mills and low temperature milling preserve the nutrition for whole grain food. AnitasOrganic.com.
Hello and welcome back to Wild for the Weekend. We've been working with sturgeon today, our beautiful Fraser River white sturgeon. Sturgeon are culled, like I said earlier, and they hang for about 7 days, and then you can use them within about 10 days. They have about a 10-day shelf life. But you can't eat sturgeon as soon as you kill it. You need to let it hang so that the meat matures and becomes more supple. It actually has an incredibly dense, tense consistency when it's first culled, and so it needs to hang and mature out. So today we cooked it. We did ceviche, where we did the beautiful light chop. We did the ponzu, which is just stunning, and we did the lemon with the morels. Check our website out of where to go and get the sturgeon locally. We'll have a link on that, and you'll be able to go and check them out. But ask your local fishmonger. It's available here in BC, and it's yours to enjoy. Thanks for having some fun with us on Wild for the Weekend. We'll see you again soon.